site, special events, and then I moved over to the Osceola Council on Aging. I was there for about 4.5 years, and I was their VP of marketing, handling communications, their website, and a multitude of other things. And here, I just started working on, they got me right rolling into the Friday Flash, the Monday Matters. I'm already working with Amber on the November magazine, so we're like in the midst of that. December's I'll be doing completely kind of by myself, and she'll kind of just be more supervising, and then just helping them get everything kind of uniform with some of the artwork and messaging on the social channel.
Thank you.
Oh no, we lost Doug. We have Tony.
I can't possibly replace Doug. It's impossible.
Well, thank you, Belinda. But yeah, we're excited to work with you. And I know coming from the Council on Aging, you know what it's like to be scrappy. So okay, cool. So then does anybody have any questions, anything for Belinda? Okay. Then moving on into our discussion items. I know it looks like a lot, but a lot of these will be pretty quick to go through since we're working on a lot of these documents on the side too. But now that Belinda's here, I'm gonna with all the different pieces that we had documentation wise, we're gonna start rolling a lot more of those forward for review over to her based on all the reviews and revisions that we've done. And so I'll be sending out more in the next week or so of each of these since we're getting towards the end of the year with a lot of these planning items. But the first thing was the capital resale assessment charter change messaging. Tony, thank you for your input on that and everyone for input. The last piece related to that was Lauren had asked for final review yesterday. So myself and the chair of the finance committee took one final look. But Jacob, do you know the status of that? I think we're all good to go there.
We should be all good to go there.
Okay. But again, thank you guys for that. This was mainly just a discussion item on here since when we initially were having our meeting pre-hurricane, we were still going through the process of reviewing it, but since we reviewed it over email, we're all set there. But does anyone have any questions on that?
I know yesterday it was kind of going through the very last minute edits from the finance and board members, and I think it just went to the election company today and paid the processing of it. So it's rolling now.
Cool.
We did get them to workshop it. The original letterhead or cover letter was very legal jargon full. It was a page and a half, just full text. And so luckily we were able to have them massage that a lot to get to really the core of it so we can get the messaging out of, you know, the core messaging on why it's beneficial. And it's a quick one, click yes or no election.
Nice and easy. Okay, cool. Well, if nobody has any other comments on that, we can roll into SMS status. So thank you all again for looking over the documents related to SMS. One of the things Charles asked also is for a rollout plan, which I'm going to be sending over to you all to take a look at. But the contract has been signed, so we are good to go there. And so now once we have kind of the rollout plan and the guidelines all set, that'll be sent over to Belinda to take a look over. And then since that is, Jacob, since the SMS is going to be so external facing, is this something that the board needs to sign off on in terms of the, like the kind of the rollout and just the guidelines, or is this something that can be done internally?
At this moment, we can keep it internally. The board just needed to approve the use of the program. And as far as the internal use of it, I think it's something we can keep it internal unless we come up with anything that looks like it's going to be a controversial or hot topic item that we want to run it up as a recommendation and have the board's approval on it. We'll see. Let's work on just shopping it through here. It might need to go just as a discussion item to the board, but I think we're in good hands or at the moment.
Okay. So the next step on this one is since it's been about 2 months, I'm going to recirculate the guidelines document as well as the rollout plan that Charles had requested. to the committee, and we'll include you, Belinda. And then once we have a full finalized stamp of approval from our end, then we'll pass it up to Jacob to review for final approval. But included in the rollout plan is also what we're going to be doing in order to get more people opted into the system. But at least we now have the system. So yay. Thank you guys for all the work on this of getting that up to the board. Any questions on that one? Okay. Then for 2025 planning, we kind of put a little bit of a hold on this, waiting for Belinda to come in. But after this, I'm going to be sending you guys a skeletal framework document with some ideas related to 2025 planning that relates to kind of just board priorities of things that they've asked for, and then things that are within like our scope document and Belinda's job description and scope. So that'll be something that'll be more of a collaborative process over email. And similarly to what we did for the comms advisory group, I'm just going to set a couple of different calendar points as like deadlines for people to have feedback in. And then that will be something to Jacob that I think that this would probably be one we would want to take to the board. There shouldn't be any major budget pieces behind it, but just so that they can see what we're doing from the perspective for next year's planning. But that's all I had on this one, really. I know I was planning on working on it last week, but the hurricane kind of got in the way a little bit. Does anybody have any comments or anything they'd like to see in particular on that before we start working on it? I'll take the silence as no.
We shared a lot of those comments earlier, so.
Yeah, this is basically very much a recap meeting because Belinda being here with new staff and getting her onboarded. So next time, hopefully it'll be a lot more tangible, more like action items or like finalizing all of us voting on and approving of the different documents. Next is new hire resource planning. What does Belinda need to succeed? And so more so wanted this to be kind of an open discussion of what you guys have seen so far with like our committee and with town hall that would be some good things for us to put on the docket to help Belinda on board. So just more so wanted this to be a collaborative discussion of any items that she might need.
Well, I don't know what she needs. I'm sure she'll get her marching orders from Jacob and others. However, I mean, I think I would suggest to you, Belinda, that you tap people on this committee if you want to, you know, have a sounding board. You want to sort of have someone be a litmus test for you, whatever ideas you have. We're happy to do it, and that's why we're on this committee. So I would just suggest don't be shy, and we're happy to help. So
Sounds good. Thank you.
And actually, and I'll put this in email too, since all of us have very different backgrounds as well. If each of the committee members could send like a really quick synopsis of like what you've done in terms of like professional experience that Belinda might be able to come to and provide guidance, or even like background of like what you've done in celebration. Because I know we all have done different things within the community and have all done different things professionally that she might be able to lean on. So I'll send that as a reminder, but I think that that might be helpful because again, like I know for like comms, like crisis comms plans, like I would go to Doug first before I would go to myself, things like that.
Thank you, Doug, for those words. Yeah, I kind of echoed that to Belinda already, saying she has a lot of talented resources in this committee, and that it should be a good collaborative relationship, I think, between you guys.
I mean, we've got no skin in the game. We want you to succeed because we'll have to do more work if you don't. So,
Yep.
But you will.
I appreciate that.
You'll still be doing a lot of work, but
I'm ready to work.
cool. Does anybody else have anything for that? Again, I'm making a bunch of notes to send out things after this. Hey. Then the next thing was the social media policy document review. thank you guys for all the inputs that you all had on that from way a while ago. It was about a month ago. I'm going through that one more time, just kind of combing through and making sure there's nothing else that we might want to add in. And then Belinda, I'm going to pass that along to you so that then we can do like one final approval of that to then Jacob pass to you as kind of a gold standard of what we want to do on social.
Yeah.
But included in that is the recommendation of like we had voted on the removal of Twitter, X, and then just what we're doing in terms of like overall guidelines otherwise from things that we've all seen.
Perfect.
Cool. So I'll mark down to send that over. Anyone have anything else on that or any? I'll send it around again since it has been a little bit, just so that everybody can take another look at it. Okay. Then for the internship program discussion, so I know, thank you guys again for, this was a long while ago before Liz had departed, of all the comments and reviews on it. I know, Jacob, have you and Belinda had a chance to start going through that yet? I know it's been very fresh and new.
No, she has the
Okay.
document, just quite recently as well. She's has the document to the internship program. What I kind of see too is, I mean, it's approved in the budget. I want to say last time we discussed with the committee, I can't remember if we were even discussing if it was this position or something with Kanoa, but kind of where we are with positions and communications. Right now, about 20% of Belinda's workload should be budgeted for Kanoa business, as they've kind of been completely neglected as far as what they're paying into our CJC. And this is a CJC position, Celebration Joint Committee. And so Kanoa, it has some asks of this. So we said, you know, with this new comms manager, we can allot a percentage of the scope to this position. And that's going to be kind of working on getting Kanoa information out in our current publications, I think is step one in this. I bring this up, and I know I'm kind of jumping ahead on that Kanoa support though, but I bring it up only because it ties into this internship program, as the internship program has budget allotted for it starting January. And also starting January is another headcount position for a marketing specialist. That marketing specialist will be 100% dedicated to Kanoa. And so that job is going to be more relationships with all of our businesses inside Celebration and working on using our communication channels to help promote their types of events happening. You know, maybe that there's a trivia happening at the brewery, that type of stuff. Really just trying to help our residents understand the benefits that they have through their local businesses. That being said, it's a big growth we have in our communications from a director that was mainly lifestyles and had a scope of communications to now having a full communications manager, a marketing specialist. While yes, there's, you know, that work is designated to Kanoa, and an internship program. So really, it's great in the sense that we have Belinda. She has about 2.5 months of boots on the ground, just herself, to kind of see and evaluate the needs of how we can best utilize these other positions. But that being said too, I think it's another one we can use this committee to see how can we best use this internship program. I guess that was a kind of rant there.
I want to add also, I reached out to Career Source today because I was talking to Nikki earlier about high school interns for her over the summer, but that kind of segued Career Source to plug into me that they have an adult internship program. So I did forward that email to Lauren and Jacob to review, of possibly meeting with them, because that might be additional dollars where they'll usually provide like the first 15 weeks where they put it under their budget. And then if we can continue on, they have options like that. So I did segue them into that to start that conversation.
Okay, awesome, thank you. But then I guess since we're still working, that does anybody have any questions or comments or additions to the current status? Okay, I'll take silence as no. So the next thing
Oh, I
was
guess I'll
the
pause on, I'll add a little something on that.
Yeah.
How do internships work? I know Belinda, you've had a little experience with internships and maybe some other on this committee on the sense of, I'm assuming that these kind of work with, they kind of can often fall in line with school schedules. In the sense of, is this something we want to start really promoting and launching in a month in November that, and then really look into it more in December? So that way we get someone for that, I guess that term, starting in January, instead of starting the communication and the, job posting of this per se in January.
I've always ran on school schedule.
That's what I thought. So we'll want to start looking at this sooner.
Yeah. And the
Yeah,
school can, oh, go.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
worked with Career Source in Pinellas County when I lived in Tampa back in the day, and it was with like regular internship programs and regular like job placement programs, and they always seem to want us to do things starting like right in January as well.
Yeah. And I know schools often like to try to get those set up as far ahead of time as possible.
Yeah, I think we just need to figure out when most likely UCF, so when their school schedule starts for the winter. And then kind of work back that way, because you want to have someone in place by at least the first week of when school starts, because first week is when everyone likes to have their internships locked in. I think they have like a 2-week bumper of having it locked in.
And we can work with helping you guys expedite this as much as possible to get it going so we can have somebody in there for January. And then guess Belinda, that can be something too, that if there's anything that you want suggestions on or assistance on with like where would be the best place to start with like scoping them for different things to work on, we can help you with that too.
Okay.
Are we paying the intern?
It is a paid internship.
Good. A nice incentive for someone.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and with the college, they have a certain amount of hours. So I think, I can't remember if it was I have two numbers in my head, 120 or 265, 256. So it's something, they have a certain amount of hours that they have to complete in the semester.
From this committee's experience, I mean, I'm assuming you were all here when we had the the communications staff member. Is that correct? Because we had someone under Liz that worked in communications, and then that position went empty and they decided not to fill it and start and do this internship, from my understanding.
That's correct.
Okay.
We didn't have a lot of direct FaceTime with her. But did kind of know a little bit about the general gist of what she was doing on a day-to-day basis. But she was doing a lot of primarily content focused. So she was doing the social media posts, videos, updating the website, things like that.
Gotcha.
Okay. Then we'll work on getting all of that, like all the assistance set up for that and finalized. And then I think it would be really great to like just knowing, Jacob, I'm always blanking on the timing of when do the committees stop and restart again? More so just to know like if we'd be able to like meet with the intern and things like that. I know it goes along the election timelines, but my brain.
It's along the election timeline, so I'm gonna say late first quarter. I think it's somewhere around March. You're asking a question that I don't know the full answer on right now.
Yeah, my brain is not on CROA election timelines, is not on partisan election timelines.
Yeah, it's usually in conjunction with the annual meeting, I believe, the annual meeting.
Yeah.
And then they go to like a month after that, and then they start the new committees.
Yeah, because it takes the new board to elect the committee members, and that's why I think and that meeting is usually February, am I correct? So
Yeah,
then these would usually the elections or the committees are choosing, around March.
Okay. So then Yeah, once they start, it'd be great for us to be able to do like a meet and greet with them.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay, anything else then on the program? No, we've got a little bit of a decent timeline rolling then.
Maybe could I maybe back us up to a different topic? I think you already covered it. Maybe I missed it at the very, very beginning.
Mhm.
Did we talk a little bit more, or can we talk a little bit more about the letters that we edited or provided some edits for, particularly for the capital resale assessment? Did we already talk about that?
That was the first item I think you had just joined.
Yeah. So could we revisit that in a moment? A couple questions that I have. One is, I don't know what they ended up doing, whether what they actually published or when they're going to publish, whatever they're going to publish, or what means whether everybody's going to get a letter in the mail, or does anybody know what's the process that they're following for that?
So it'll follow the exact same process of what you have seen for committee board elections. This falls a charter change like this inside an HOA has to follow the exact same Chapter 720 elections for an HOA. And so it has its posting that's going to go out.
And then there's a period of input from residents and so forth, or
on the
assessment.
as far as input goes, it's a vote. So what's your question on input?
Well, so a vote by the residents, or is it a vote by the board?
Oh, okay. This is a vote by the residents. So this is going out as a whole separate, it's an election technically. We
Okay.
had to pay for this
It's the
election just
it's
like
fine.
we.
The reason I'm asking is because then I think all the more reason why, particularly since we're the communications committee, that we help to make sure that the communications is painfully clear.
Yeah.
Because I tested it, the idea with a few folks, and, neighbors and so forth, and I said, hey, so what do you think of this sort of thing? And first, I had a little bit of a hard time explaining it to them without them asking a few questions, right? Well, what does it really mean? And when I sell my house, oh yeah, the person who's buying a house pays for, pays his fee, right? And I said, and it'll be graduated. The more expensive the house, the more expensive the fee. Unlimited. $3 million house pays a lot more than a $400,000 house, right? And then I said, well, what's that fee get applied to? Well, that fee gets applied to, our amenities and so forth. Says, well, wait a minute. Just because I buy a more expensive house, I'm paying more for the same amenities that somebody else is using. In other words, they were like, that seems socialistic to me, right? And that was not my word. That was somebody else's word. And I thought, it is socialistic. It's, the rich pay more and the people who buy less pay less. And like for the same amenities, for the same park, for the same everything, as I'm not getting special access to a special club, I'm paying for the same thing, and I'm paying 10 times at times more than somebody else. And I thought, yeah, that's basically what you're voting on, right? And I felt the responsibility at that point. I said, that's why I made the points that I did in the letter and the edits that I did. I said, we better make sure we're really, really explaining this, because it really is gonna, they may not even understand what they're voting on. And I worry that after the vote and it starts to impact, then there's going to be this, like it was for pickleball. All of a sudden, there's going to be all kinds of nonsense floating around the community, and a crisis created for no good reason. So I think we owe it to the community and to the board to help to make sure that this communication is very, very, very clear.
Yeah.
Because I'd be the first one to say, absolutely not. I don't want to pay 10 times more if I'm buying a house for the same amenities as somebody who, is going to use, unless you're giving me access to some special club or giving me special, something.
Yeah, I see
This
that. Yeah,
doesn't
it's a
seem
fair,
like
it's,
fair.
yeah, it's the other side, right? And you have to
Yeah,
think, we have to
it's
think
just
about
not a
both
fair
views
thing,
on it.
right? It's if amenities are one thing, we're all paying the same. That's why our HOAs are the same, right? I don't think we pay a different HOA for a bigger house than a smaller house, except for some neighborhoods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I bring it up only because I think it's important that we help the board make sure they do a good job of communicating what this change means. I don't know if everybody else disagrees or agrees or feels as I do, but I just know the few people that I tested it with, they were like, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah, I think the way that the language is written, like not from like the perspective, like I have very similar feelings to you, Tony. But the way that the language is written and the updates that were made, I feel as though they really represent what it's supposed to mean. But on that, I know we're sending out that information, we're sending out the ballots, things like that. Jacob, is there things that we would be able to do communications wise to assist,
Yes.
like
So-
graphic? Because I know one thing is people are going to read it and they're going to look at it and be like, huh? But even though it is clear, like if are we able to actually like create some graphics or anything that could also go out that would be clarifying toward
Where
it
should
too?
they go? Or where should they go for questions? Where should
Yeah,
they go for- who do they call? How
like
do they
a
get more
gated web
information?
page or
Well, and that's a great, and who they call is they're going to call and they're going to go to, and they're going to question the contact of town hall, which is going to be our resident service team. One thing that we probably need to do really soon is create a plan on a, like, you know, on almost a script of what do you want our resident service team to be saying? When these residents are calling with these questions and our front desk staff is fielding these questions as best as they can, what do we want? You know, and that's, they really, you know, they work best off of that. If we give them a script and an FAQ with answers, and you know, with exactly like you said, how we want the content to be drafted and the right type of messaging, then that is going to be kind of the best way that we can answer questions that are asked to us. We have the issue, as we all know, which a lot of the questions won't actually be asked to town hall. They're going to be posted on a back porch and then shopped around the back porch without town hall's involvement on it.
Yep.
That's also like, I think what Janine's trying to say on, and we can almost do a campaigning for what we would like. And it's not as a campaign, it'll be as a informational on, here's the information about this, what you're voting for and where the funds are going and why is this better, or, you know, the value of it.
yeah. I
I
think
ju- Yeah, I think we have to be
Yeah,
precise.
because the letter itself, unfortunately, because of how it is part of changing the charter, while we would, you know, while I would like it to be very layman's term, easily digestible, unfortunately, that type of document is so legally bound. It's not that, you know, it's not as legally, or it's not as digestible as I'd like it to be. I still think it doesn't get the messages out clearly and concisely. And there's not a lot we can do in the actual ballot itself because we can't, we're, you know, a
Yeah,
lot of hands are
The
tied.
impact of this is significant. This is a significant issue, right? So
Mhm.
I think, I mean, I don't want to be an alarmist here, but at the same time, you know, in a real estate market, I mean, we may be creating a situation where it puts Celebration sellers, homeowners who are selling their property at a disadvantage.
So
Some people would say,
that
you know,
was brought up in the finance workshops and the board workshops before this was voted on by the board to send to the community to vote. And the big caveat on it, and this is something to consider, is right now the capital fund does not have near the amount of money in it to fund the master plan, nor does it have a revenue stream to be able to fund it even the next 5-10 years. So this was how do we fund the capital fund without raising dues? Because raising
Yeah,
dues is,
I'm not on the board, but the answer to that is impossible.
it is. So the
That's
main way
that's
that
the answer to that.
the capital fund gets a small contribution from the annual budget that goes out. And then the rest of it either comes from a surplus in the operating budget by the end of the year, or through the capital assessment that is currently in place, which is 1 year's worth of dues. So this is an option to modify that. I have to be indifferent about it. So
Yep.
I think it's right. I'm glad that I'm really glad to hear that there's people on this committee, especially, that are playing the devil's advocate on it, because I think that's important, especially on on getting the communication out there.
I just think we just need to help the board position it, not sell it. Position it
position it.
fairly,
Position it. Thank
position
you.
it fairly and honestly. Fairly and honestly. Because, let's face it, I feel a responsibility being on this committee, and the board should as well, to not just try to get it by because people are not gonna pay attention. Because one day they're gonna pay attention, they're gonna be sadly surprised by it, right? And I don't think that's fair.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean,
And so I just think we need to be as transparent and honest so that people truly understand what they're really voting on.
so
Mhm.
I know like a good example of this too is like for what's going on with like a lot of the ballot amendments, like the constitutional amendments in November, that I know that there's obviously like yes on and no on, but the way that a lot of them structure their campaigns is dedicated landing pages, dedicated social campaigns, dedicated like these FAQs, scripting. We could basically develop a script, turn that script into information that could go on a gated page on the website. And then if people start, because chatter is going to start on the Facebook pages, and it's basically a link that is all the information, unbiased of either side, regardless if you're for or against it, but just gives all of the information all in one place. That is much more, like you said, it could be layman's terms versus the language that is needing to be in the letter because it
Yep.
is charter focused.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think what Janine suggests is important. I think all of this is very important. Anything to do with money is going to, be an issue. But I shudder at creating an FAQ that a human will use to talk to an irate resident. I don't think we want that. I think we create a website. We have, the information all on the website, have people, and if they want to ask questions later, let them post it on social platforms. That's fine. But I don't think we have the time or the energy to train someone to answer very difficult question that
I
someone's
agree
going to
with
have
Doug.
on this
I agree
issue.
with you, Doug. I agree with you. I think we'd be setting them up for failure and for aggravation that they don't deserve. I mean,
Yeah,
they're going to be targeted. So I agree with that comment 100%. I think we need to just, again, the communication should be clear. And Jacob, given what you said about, the legalities, I, unfortunately, I understand that comment very well because I've dealt with lawyers my whole life. But given that, the idea of having, we just got to make sure that we get another mechanism, whether it's a,
Yeah.
FAQ or online, so people can get their answers to some basic questions. But it's simple math, right? And the simple math is hard to escape. If you sell a more expensive house, it's going to cost you more. It's simple math. But people may not even do that math. That's why I felt that it was important to have those examples within the body of the letter to say,
Mhm.
hey, just so that we're clear, this means this means this. I stopped at adding, which means you're paying X more for the same thing. Because I didn't want to open up that can of worms. But that's the obvious conclusion that I'm not sure it would be fair for us to not mention in an FAQ. I like to address questions directly, even before they're asked. I know people are going to ask, doesn't that mean I'm paying more for the same thing? Yes, it does. And why is that fair? Well, I might argue that it's not fair. It's just the way we're doing it. If you don't like it, you can vote against it. That's what needs to happen, I think, right?
I assume there's already a plan for it to be in the magazine and have that written out for the time period.
That would be a
the
good place
ballots
for it, it
go
seems
out.
to me.
The magazine is good, plus then they can link that. I mean, we all know it's gonna be on every porch and they're gonna, every back porch, front porch, side porch. If
And
we
they're going
can
to
get some,
bastardize it. Yeah.
yeah, if we can get some information though out to the leaders of those porches, which some of them actually are board members that are admins on those pages, make sure they have the links to direct the residents to. I do agree with your comment that having the person who answers the phone try and explain it might be a little more difficult because I don't know how much, it's going to be a tough one to explain.
Yeah.
I like what Janine said. I mean, this is my daughter's first national election that she can vote in. And we went to a lot of those websites to explain the amendments and, show her, who was recommending what and who was voting, what. So there, if we can get some of us, a site pulled together or a link pulled together that gives everyone those what it's actually talking about and how we support it, that would be really a good thing for the phone, the people who answer the phone, to direct them there instead of trying to answer it themselves.
Or in addition, we might, again, it's a recommendation to the board that they hold a town hall, special town hall, open to the community
Mhm.
to address people's questions on this particular topic. That way they can at least pass the red face test. Did you try enough
Mhm.
to tell us everything? Because
Yeah.
a letter ain't enough.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and he's right, that letter is probably a lot of legal ease because it goes out with the ballots, right?
So if I was on the board, I'd say, well, let's just have a special town hall,
Mhm.
announce it in December sometime before the vote. You say, hey, we're having this meeting. There's a lot of questions about this, and people can join it virtually or they can attend it and ask their questions. And I think the board is asking for a bit of a unnecessary conflict unless they do that.
Yeah, I think if they get up front, they'll have a better chance. It is, it's either gonna be a yes or a no vote. But, the alternatives are not very good. I mean, this is a good way of at least starting the funding, but the alternatives are taking out bonds and loans and those things
Right,
that,
right. And
that they need to get up front
I
about
would
that.
have, I think we could have probably advised them on some ways to, and maybe the finance committee did that. I mean, I would have said, yeah, okay, why don't you at least put a cap on it? It can never be as more than
this
X,
percent. Mhm.
That,
right? Because,
yeah.
I was surprised that I didn't have a cap. I'm like, Jesus, man, you know, that
Mhm.
seems so patently unfair, right?
Yeah,
So,
That's interesting. Yeah.
it's got, I mean, you got to think they were coming from they're coming from a different mindset, right? They're coming from a how do we get more funds without raising those dues? And that was really the base of it.
yeah, but
Um,
Jacob, in today's political charged world that we live in, this sounds like the wealthy should pay more taxes. That's what it sounds like, and
Yep,
that's
we
exactly
ha-
what it is.
it is. And I
It's
heard those comments were made in those meetings, even by
okay.
residents
So
and
that's
by
why I'm
and
surprised they didn't at
realtors.
least put a cap on it.
And
At least
realtors
put a cap on
are
this thing.
absolutely against this
Oh, yeah.
because, yeah,
Yeah. I
those, like I said, those are
and whether
fair.
listen, wherever people will fall. I just think that our job is to make sure that they have the honest, transparent, truth
Yeah.
communicated to them, so they're making a decision based on that. That's all.
It is true. It is.
I'm
I
going to
don't want it
refrain.
to be.
I personally will refrain from getting on social media and saying how I feel about it, because that's a
Yeah.
that's a slippery slope.
Yeah. And my concern is we're going to have other people that are on the other side that almost are a little more on the case. Well, if you don't vote for this, this is going to raise our dues, and they're going to go on that battle. And it's hard because it's not going to raise their dues because it's not, immediately, but it means that in the future, next year, when they're looking at the budget and they're looking at how to get the funds that they're looking for, their options go from right now they had one option and they created two. Well, if this two doesn't work, they have the one option.
Yeah.
Which isn't ideal. It's not ideal, but it's a different, like you said, but it's a completely different social game as well.
Anyway, Janine, I didn't mean to rail
No,
on
it's
I
a
do know
very good
that
point.
I think this letter, the cover letter in notice that I see is dated for October 24th.
Okay. So then we need to start rolling on getting things in order pretty quickly to get that. So I think scripting wise for like the team at Town Hall would more so be visit X URL, and it has all of the information laid out, but basically getting everything prepared for that we need to do before it goes out.
What
Yeah.
about Diana's good idea about the, is there going to be a piece that should go into when is the next monthly magazine published?
Yeah.
Because to me, that rather than a URL, which means we have to build, maybe the easiest way is just to put it into the magazine.
Yeah, but I know so many people who do not touch the magazine.
Fair enough,
Yeah.
but whatever you
That-
put in
that- that's
but
my
whatever you
problem.
put, whatever
Yeah.
you put in the
Out there when it's
magazine, you can just link it into a URL, right? So whatever you
Yeah.
create for the magazine, you just link it. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be a link to some kind of
Yeah.
site,
When
right?
We can, but it will only be able to go in December's magazine.
Oh.
Well, when is the vote?
Uh, Or to establish the polls on Monday, so they'll establish the polls will open October 24th. The Board of Directors has established that the polls will open on Monday, October 21st, 2024, and close on Wednesday, November 13th.
Okay.
All ballots received no later than 5:30 on Tuesday, February 27th. Any ballots received on this date and time will not be counted. Wait, I need to check these dates. This is
Yeah,
a
that
draft.
doesn't,
That's
No,
the
I
date-
gotta double check these drafts, yeah.
okay, yeah, that
That's the
doesn't, I mean,
dates
if
that I
it's,
have.
What do you have,
I have
Belinda?
this, I have the same days, the 21st to the 13th.
Okay.
All right.
The
So,
is this gonna
magazine,
be a separate, or is it with the vote for the, board of directors?
Separate.
Separate.
It's separate, yeah.
They did this, and there was pushback on the speed of this as well. They
This is
wanted to
very
do this.
quick.
This is very, 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 very quick.
Yeah.
They wanted to do it as a separate election, even though they know it can occur. The elections aren't cheap because of the mailing expenses mainly. It's almost all the mailing is the expense to the election. But because if this is because if it passed, the amount of funds brought in just in sales that are calculated between it passing and the next election far exceeded the cost of the election.
well, look, a special election kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I think the timing of it, however, so maybe, and then we can move on because I know we have other topics, but maybe our due diligence should be to the board to say, you may want to consider a few things. Number one, the letter should, yada, yada, the letter should be absolutely clear and specific because we've tested it informally with some people, and there's going to be a lot of questions. Two, give yourself the opportunity. We suggest you give yourself an opportunity to have a town hall meeting. That's something you can do pretty quickly. A special town hall meeting. Since you're trying to have a special election, shouldn't you also have a special town hall meeting? And number three, since it is a special election and since it's somewhat arbitrary when you do it, give yourself another month. Why? So that we can put the information in the December issue so that people are better informed and then you have a better outcome on the election. For those reasons, we suggest maybe pushing it back a month or so. So they can then say, thank you for your advice, but no, but at least we've done our job of saying from a communication standpoint, you may be rushing it. You haven't done a few things you should do. And, because now all of a sudden people are going to say, well, you didn't give us enough time. You did a special election. You moved it fast. The letter wasn't clear. What are you trying to hide? I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theory guy, but I used to run companies and I don't like having to stand in front of, the public and say, no, that's really not what we intended. We really had a good intention. Yeah, well, your actions showed something different.
Jacob, are they already committed to those dates though? They're already voted, it's already voted in, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah, they pushed it, they were pushing it really fast. And yeah, I think it's,
Which is a mistake that they didn't get with us,
Look, if
but
we're here to advise
their-
them on your communication strategy, again, you're doing a lot of things that are going to cause people to go, what's
Mhm.
going on? Why are they going so fast? What's the rush? Why are we not being communicated? Listen, again,
yeah. They were basing it, I want to say the speed on it was based around the holidays or people travel. Yeah, it was
yeah, probably right before that's right before Thanksgiving, the 13th.
they wanted to get it done before the,
And for the magazine, we already have the first draft and we were already cut things out because we were over
all I
for
would say,
November.
maybe, as a final point on this, all I suggest is maybe we send them a quick note from us to say, here's a few reasons you might want to think about whether you pause this or not. You didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you should do this. Take it or leave it, right? But that's our advice. And then I can feel like we did our part of trying to help them manage the fallout.
I do think it would be nice to have the help with, like you said, maybe with what is our content? What is the outside of the letter itself? What content are we wanting to create for this? And again, I totally hear what you're saying on we don't want the people answering the phone and reading off almost a script or going off of an FAQ or, really having a decision. They should just be providing information. And I agree with that. I do know that they will be getting these calls. Like they, people are going to be contacting the front desk. I just want to make sure that we're giving them as much information as we can on it, the front desk's team, so that way they're passing it on. Because if not, the lack of information they have, they're stuck to their best judgment, and we don't want that.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to that is all the information, sir or ma'am, is on our website. I can send you the link, or here it is. The other point, though, that gets to what you were just talking about, Jacob, is how do you communicate with the board? Because look, people who are really up in arms about it will go to the website, they'll look at the FAQ, they'll still be pissed off, and they're going to want to talk to someone else. And we don't want them to talk to an administrative person.
Yep.
We want them to possibly talk to a member of the board, or at least provide access to communicate with the board. So my question is, does that exist? Is there a way that someone can communicate with the board? Because if there is, then that should be sort of the fall safe, the last sort of piece of communication that says FAQ is on the website. Here's the link. Please go through it. You also can communicate directly to the board by doing blank. And that's the end of it. And
the best channel is using the town hall email, the town hall at Sierra Mail, and the title is to the attention of the board. And then that gets auto filter. It'll go auto. The person that filters all of that, because right now there's one email account for all of town hall. All the emails go in and they get sorted out and distributed into our internal administrative team, or direct, or to the board if it's for the board. That's the best for record keeping, and it can go to all of them to view.
Yeah.
I think again, I agree. It's simple to just.
Because you know what's going to happen if they get a zillion emails, they'll learn, holy crap, we need to get the comps people involved a lot sooner than we did on this issue. And that's, I know, something that, Jacob, you don't want to say to them, but it's probably a fact. So anyway.
Is Anthony's idea for the special town hall a possibility? Because in turn, you could do the webpage that has best information we can give, and then sign off that webpage with, if you have more questions, go to that special town hall.
Belinda, I think as a minimum, right? I don't know if Janine, if it's you as the chair of this committee, or Jacob or somebody to say, hey, we really want you to seriously give consideration. We gave this topic a lot of discussion in our meeting. We believe there's some things that perhaps we could have done differently and should be considered, and give them the background of our discussion.
Yeah,
and make a very specific suggestion. The suggestion is
Andrew the liaison to this committee?
Charles is.
Okay.
Yeah, Charles is. Katie was, but it's just Charles now.
Okay.
So yeah, and
I think we should just get that message to them directly, saying, do yourself a favor and schedule since this is a special election, schedule a special town hall meeting and open it up to discussion with the community. And that way you pass the red face test.
Yeah. Janine, do you want to send that to Charles? Or you can send it to the whole board, or you can send it just to Charles. It's up to on a recommendation from the committee.
And if they want the benefit of our advice, I don't know about how anybody else here feels, but if they want to have a special board meeting and they want to invite us to come and talk to them about our thoughts, I for one be glad to do that.
Yeah. They've been mainly heeding advice on this from the finance committee and had the finance committee's involvement, which I think was understandingly acceptable to get it to this point. I agree that I think now that it's becoming a public facing matter, and the financial impacts of this are.
Well, I think that's to Doug's point. I think Doug's point is, let's make this a lesson for them as well, as a way of helping. Say, hey guys, help us help you, right? Give us a chance to help you. If you involve us a little sooner in your decisions, we might be able to. We're not trying to tell you what to do. We're trying to help you communicate it properly.
Yeah, help mitigate it. I'll work on that tonight. just as a quick time check, we have a couple of hard stops at 7 and 6:52, but I'll write that tonight and send it over to everybody, make sure it's not too firm to anything. But yeah, I'll definitely also recommend, like, if they want to actually have a meeting with us to go over like best practices for communicating to the community about things like this. I'll mention that in there as well, but I think it's a good idea. Okay, and then the last two items we have, the risk management plan, I'm still working on. And actually I have it passed by a risk manager to look over. And it's very similar to like what the crisis communications will be. And this is all still stemming from what had happened with the data breach. So there will be more to come on that via email, but I'm still working on that. I did not get as far with that last week either because of
That's
the
right.
hurricane.
I'm excited for it. I mean, since jumping in here, it's just been a hot seat, so I'm excited to have some of these plans and processes added.
And then the last piece was related to Kanoa support. And so I know Jacob had already mentioned what was going on with the marketing specialist that's coming from Kanoa. And so I think something that we could start with is doing some recommendations of like how Belinda and her position in town hall can actually work with this new support staff member at Kanoa. Pretty similar to what we did for the internship of building out like a job description and some best practices for them, based off of what we've seen before they start in January during the new year. So everyone's opinion on that. And Jacob, if you have anything else to add about the position that you hadn't.
No, not at this moment. Really, like I said, they've gotten no marketing from within town hall and Kanoa, CJC. We haven't done a lot of marketing, which I guess used to be a part of the operation and somehow got phased out. And their articles in the magazine got phased out. So they're very good, easy to work with. They're very understanding. Anything we can do to start helping them, they're going to be happy with for now. They know that more will come, especially in January. So.
And we will
Mike,
start working on that then.
Yeah, Mike, who is the marketing manager for Lexan, has an office right between me and Belinda. So he's on this floor. And that's and he's also on the board for Kanoa and on CJC. So his involvement is gonna be close to Belinda at the moment if needed.
Is everybody good with that? Basically just starting to build out some documentation, doing our reviews.
Oh.
That's a big thing with a lot of the stuff this committee, we're starting from scratch because there's no documentation or anything. So we're kind of building out a full communications playbook.
Yeah.
So then last items are, we don't have any owners on here besides committee members, so we can go ahead and go to any committee comments or open discussion before we adjourn.
I just want us to end in prayer.
I have one quick question. Because I was talking to Amber today with the lifestyles, and I noticed that they have 2 events. They do public facing events and resident only events. And my concern was, it from an outsider point of view, even before I joined the team, it's very confusing. And sometimes if there's something's on Facebook, I would think I can, like the spooky soiree, that I can just attend it. And a lot of people on Facebook don't tend to actually click on the events and read it thoroughly to find out that it's residents only. So my suggestion was, and I kind of started it, but I wanted to make sure that the sentence I use or the verbiage works for all of you. So I put kind of like a little sash on the resident only ones, and it says private resident event is what Amber was using. So I wasn't sure if private resident event or resident exclusive, or if there's a specific way that would sound better to read. And then the alternative was open to the public event. So when we make any kind of events, whether it be name, title, or flyers, that will always be on it, so it's easily identifiable as which one are residents and community facing.
I'm
Mhm.
fine with private resident.
Okay.
Does anybody have any objections to that? And you're always going to have people, though, unfortunately, who are not going to read no matter how many places you put it.
Yeah.
So,
Sounds good. So then I'll let her know, so I just wanted that so it was uniform, so going forward, anything she puts them forward, it will always read that on the actual collateral.
cool. Does anybody else in the committee have anything else? No, we've got a lot going on. Okay, so seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you all.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Adjourned at 6:58. Thank you guys, and
Take care,
we'll be in
everyone.
touch very soon. Don't mind my late night emails.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.